Dr. Dipanjan Basu. It was a pleasure meeting you during the 17th African Regional Conference on Soil Mechanics and Geotechnical Engineering here in Cape Town, South Africa. Welcome.
Thank you.
Congratulations on your recently concluded short course on sustainability in geotechnical engineering. Before we start with the interview, I just would like to spend some time on inviting you to share about yourself to our IGS members.
Well, I am originally from India. I did my PhD in the US, and then right now I'm an associate professor at the University of Waterloo in Canada. I'm a geotechnical engineer and I do a lot of research and teaching related to geotechnical engineering. I teach 3 undergraduate courses and 2 postgraduate courses in geotechnical engineering, and my research is related to sustainability and numerical modeling in geotechnical engineering. I am also the chair of TC 307, which is the technical committee on sustainability in geotechnical engineering of the International Society of Soil Mechanics and Geotechnical Engineering. And I have a lot of interest in geotechnical engineering modeling and as well as sustainability assessment, and that is exactly what brings me to this conference, and I decided to offer this short course on the sustainability.
Wonderful. I think the sustainability and what you're doing is exactly what is bringing us here, and I would like you to share what have you learned in the past few years and its relationship to the urgent need for dedicated to the realization of sustainable development?
Well, geotechnical engineering practices requires knowledge of sustainability to a great extent, because we use a lot of resources, we generate a lot of waste and emissions, and therefore as geotechnical engineers working in a multidisciplinary framework, it is necessary that we understand how sustainability affects our profession and how we affect the world in general from a sustainability point of view. And after doing my PhD, I realized that this is an area that is of importance to the practice and for my career as well. So I started learning more about this topic, and I developed it pretty much on my own. This short course is pretty much what I developed after my PhD. So my original education and research and whatever I had learned was not at all related to sustainability. I picked it up pretty much on my own, and at some point I was instrumental in setting this sustainability committee as well. What I have learned definitely is that we need to introduce sustainability in curriculum in civil engineering, definitely in geotechnical engineering, for both undergraduate and postgraduate courses. And the second important thing, in my opinion, is that we need to establish a robust sustainability assessment framework, which I don't think exists right now in geotechnical practices.
Wonderful. I think it's you made yourself a sustainability ambassador yourself, and in saying that, I believe that how many challenges and perhaps what barriers have you faced in all these years creating or developing sustainability and sustainable development?
Well, it was interesting to begin with. When I started studying about it, I also had doubts whether this is important or is this a buzzword. And as I started reading, I convinced myself that this is important and there is a value to understanding sustainability and connecting it to our practices. So when I started, there were some skepticism, there were some resistances that was offered even during the formation of the TC 307 committee of ISSMG. However, over time, I think I found more like-minded people that believed in the cause of sustainability, and eventually we found a vibrant group that is part of the committee of the ISSMG. In fact, we have also formed a committee in the Canadian Geotechnical Society. We have a committee in the ASC Geo Institute, and I am a member of all of them. In fact, I am the chair of the ASC GEI committee as well, and I am a vice chair of the Sustainable Geotechnics Committee of the Canadian Geotechnical Society. So yes, to begin with, there were barriers, there were challenges. Mostly there are people who still don't believe sustainability is an important issue. Having said that, I feel more and more resonance among people, so that is a good news. And the second challenge I think is to introduce sustainability in our curriculum, in our civil engineering curriculum. That has not been done all across universities in the world, and I think we can do a better job in doing that.
So if I did take your point about discussing about sustainable development in committee, in SSMG, there is a TC, but you just mentioned we need to introduce it in the curricula. And I'm sure that you're doing it already. So how and where do you introduce sustainable development in your teaching?
That's a good question. Fortunately, in Waterloo, we have 3 geotechnical engineering courses. Geotechnical Engineering 1, Geotechnical Engineering 2, Geotechnical Engineering 3. And it is the third course where I can freely introduce sustainability, because this course is about case studies, and it is much more flexible. By the time I am teaching Geotechnical Engineering 3, we have already introduced soil mechanics and foundation engineering. So we are not under any obligation to cover that much of material in this course. So that's where I introduce the basics of sustainability. That's where I talk about ground improvement methods. That's where I mention how ground improvement methods, even using geosynthetics, can be a more sustainable solution compared with maybe a traditional solution of foundations. So that is pretty much where I primarily talk of sustainability. I do offer once in a while some independent study courses to graduate students who want to learn sustainability in general, and in particularly with geotechnical engineering. So I have done that from time to time. But in general, for my teaching to a wide audience of my undergraduate students, I do it in the Geotechnical Engineering 3. And the good news is Geotechnical Engineering 3 can be also credited by the master students. So I often get both the postgraduate as well as the undergraduates to come to this class, and there I not only teach the traditional geotechnical engineering case studies and practices and designs. I also introduce to them to the basics of what sustainability means and how it is connected to geotechnical engineering, and how we can use the different tools to quantify sustainability for geotechnical engineering.
That's marvelous. That's very well done. And if finally, my last question is, you mentioned about teaching and about your geotechnical engineering 3. So if I ask you what has changed from when it started to today, what progress, what research and teaching have you developed from the beginning to today and tomorrow?
Well, the first thing I must mention is a change in mindset. So initially when I introduced sustainability, I was a bit skeptical, because I was younger than what I am today. So therefore, introducing a new topic to a course which has already been taught several years by several senior faculty, obviously there was that doubt whether I should do it or not, but then I did it. And I think the students like it actually. They get a flavor of what is new, what is important, and so on. And in terms of my research, I have slowly geared my research towards 2 different aspects. One is contributing to sustainable development through my research on renewable energy geotechnics. That's one of my major focus of research. And the other is developing a combined sustainability and resilience assessment framework for geotechnical engineering that I'm kind of working on right now with one of my PhD students. So these are, I think these are significant. The impact will show up at some point of time, and I'm quite optimistic about it.
Dr. Basu, thank you. Thank you for your time.
Edoardo, I wanted to ask you one question, if you allow me.
Sure.
How does geosynthetics, you think, impact sustainable development?
That's a very good question, and I think in terms of the International Geosynthetic Society is in the mission to grow geosynthetics in the sustainable development. And just to mention a few, we started geosynthetics when we worked on replacing granular material to natural material to, for instance, geosynthetic clay liner, or to use to thinner the pavements, the road pavements, introducing geotextiles and geogrids. Recently, there is much more that can be done that geosynthetic have seen in sustainable development, such as preserving water. You know, water is something that we need to start looking at, and the use of geosynthetics in barrier system, in ponds and lagoons. I've seen the result of sustainable development in terms of maintaining the water reserves, or for instance also our waste, the containment of our waste and the pollution of the environment. Geosynthetic, I think it's vital to landfill, to mine waste tailings, and also in terms of erosion control. The erosion control, it's a very huge phenomenon that we need to look after, especially with our climate change. And geosynthetic allow to preserve to maintain and control erosion on slopes, on all our natural environment.
I see. In fact, I have done some limited research on LCA of geosynthetics, and I found out that like from a life cycle assessment point of view, geosynthetics are more environment friendly than the alternatives.
Thank you. Dr. Basu, I think thank you so much for your time talking about one of the most important subjects that we're facing as engineering society, which will see us research and develop new philosophy and practice leading towards sustainable development for the generation of future engineers. So I would like to wish you a pleasant stay here in Cape Town and enjoy the conference, and thank you once again for your time. Thank you.